Welcome to Super Movie Brothers. Let's start the show.
This is a podcast on the Podfix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.
Welcome to Super Movie Brothers, episode 78. I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Dave.
I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Jay.
And me and Jay, this is the first time me and Jay are sitting down together in 2 weeks, because the past 2 weeks, the episodes you guys have been hearing have been pre-recorded episodes that we did earlier in December.
Surprise.
Yeah. And if you can hear my voice and it sounds all fucked up, well, that's because my little disease factory daughter brought a disease to Christmas, and
kind of me too, I think.
No. She took out my entire family.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my whole family. We were actually at a family party today.
Well, she looked rough
for the
day.
Winter Classic, and we were there, and everyone's talking about they're sick, they're going through all their symptoms, and I was like, oh shit, that's exactly what me and Lauren are getting over right now, and that's what my daughter had, and it's a nasty fucker, dude. It's a nasty fucking cold. Like it gets in you. It gives you like a high fever for like 24 hours.
Oh, no.
And then it causes you to vomit or shit your brains out. And then after that, you will have sore throat, headaches, sniffles, like flop sweat. Like, dude, and my kid had it for like 2 weeks almost. And now I'm at the tail end of it, and I've had it for damn near 2 weeks as well. So,
yeah, that's why I haven't really seen much of you other than your family Christmas party, which was nice. And yeah, I've been kind of just low key with work, and
there he is, always low key.
But I did finally get out to go skiing, which was really nice, and go out with my cousin and his boys. It was a lot of fun.
Thus again proving you are the whitest dude anyone knows.
Yeah, pretty much.
Went skiing with my boys. Went up for a ski sesh.
Ski sesh.
Up into Pocono Mountains.
Crush some beers,
Spent most of the time, hanging out by the fire in the lodge, catching some of them snow bunnies as they come in to warm up by the fire. Keep asking if they like toasted buns, and they walk away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was coaching my little cousins, they're college age now, so.
Excuse me, miss. Have you ever had generic sex with a generic white guy in
missionary
missionary
ever heard of
position?
Jay's Indie Corner?
Yeah. She's like, no. And he's like, let me take you over there and show you a thing or two. Yeah. That's what Jay's full of. Generic sex with a generic white guy. Doing average white guy things like golfing, skiing, and tennis.
Not tennis. Can't do that. No. Not into that. But golf and skiing, yes.
He rents
and triathlons, go figure. That's even more. It's just as white.
He rents an Audi and drives to the country club, so women think he's got dough.
But really, he's poor.
As shit.
Oh man!
And don't say running marathons is a white guy thing. What about all those Kenyan runners who like fucking destroy?
I said triathlons.
Oh, whatever.
That's the difference. That's the difference right there. Because you're right, marathons, it's a whole other.
Yeah, I feel like when you guys talk about marathons, you're like, so how much did you spend on your triathlon bike? Oh, dude, I dropped like a dime piece on this shit.
A dime piece is like entry level. No, a dime is 1,000.
Is it?
Yeah.
So then what's fucking 10,000?
Because back when I said on the podcast before, back in the gambling days, like I put a dime on whatever game,
What if you were actually gambling $10,000 every time you said dime?
That would have been amazing, probably. No.
What if that's why you got in so much trouble and got your legs broken? Jay used to be 6'7", and then some shark fucking cut him off at the knees. Now he walks around with his ankles sewn to his kneecaps.
Yeah.
dragging his knuckles on the ground.
If only.
That's why he's been striking out with the ladies.
Oh my god.
Anyway.
Yeah. Off
So
topic.
when you were up in the mountains during your ski sesh, how'd that
Yes.
go? Your low key
It
weekend
was
with the boys at
cold as hell, man. It was 11 degrees at the base of the mountain.
I was like, we've had a high of 17 the past week.
Right. So the top of the mountain had to be easily below zero. Luckily, it wasn't too windy, but man, you could not expose your face at all. Like you had to have a face mask on. It was just brutal.
Absolutely.
But it was a lot of fun. Ski conditions were pretty nice, and it was just nice to get up there. I'm probably going to go up quite a bit this winter, I think. So
Shred some powder.
yeah, I'll be shredding.
All right. No, that sounds awful. As I said, I've been sick. I've just been sick as a dog. I
I'm
did
just
manage,
kind of coming on with that now over the weekend.
I did manage to get myself out. I went to Broken Goblet one night, got to hang out, got to talk to Mike. Got to talk to Mike about a little bit of business. So maybe live shows might be coming back, but not in the same format that they were, but more on that, when
Stay tuned. It's exciting.
When things are solid,
Yeah.
but I'm really looking forward to doing live shows again.
Well, just everybody knows they're actually moving locations within a few months, so that's exciting for them and for us.
Yeah. And then other than that, I watched a metric fuck ton of movies, Jay.
Oh, I bet.
I've really just been trying to clean up the things that I want to see for the rest of 2017 before it ends, so that we could do this show tonight where we talk about some of our favorite films this year. So really, what I've been watching in the past 2 weeks was I finished The Crown season 2. Actually, I wrapped up season 1 and watched all of season 2. I rewatched season 1 and season 2 of Ash versus the Evil Dead because that's going to be coming out in February, and in February I'm going to be joining John from Now in Technicolor to talk about Evil Dead 1, Evil Dead 2, and then we are also going to talk about the Evil Dead remake and Cabin in the Woods.
Thank you, sir, for taking over my chair.
Yeah. And then I'm going to be on his show. He's not coming here.
Okay.
I'm going to be on Now in
Oh, I'm sorry.
Technicolor.
Okay.
And then I watched 3 Billboards, Downsizing, and me and you were going to do a review for the Disaster Artist coming up. And I also watched this film on Netflix that everybody's talking about, that Hollywood doesn't want to succeed. I watched Bright. Everyone's telling me how awful Bright is. I'm going to be honest with you. Not that bad. Yeah, dude, it's like a 6 out of 10.
Well,
like a 7 out of 10.
Tara and Ryan said the same thing. They saw it.
Yeah, it's like a 6. It's like a 6, 7 out of 10. It's not. It is not the garbage that you're making. Like people were telling me it's Suicide Squad level bad, and I'm like, no, this definitely is not. Like it is not that bad. It is. Is it worth your time? I mean, no. But if you got nothing else to do, I mean, pour yourself a glass of wine or a beer and sit down and watch that. I mean,
I'll get to it within a month.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm still trying to catch up on some things that I wanted to see, but.
And then how I spent my New Year's was, well, my kid was sick, so we put her to bed, and that was a nightmare. But other than that, after that, we marathoned all 6 episodes of season 4 of Black Mirror. And I got to say, I was pleasantly surprised with this season. It had its stinker episodes, just like last season. Like last season, I really disliked. I'm trying to think of the episode. Oh, the one with Bryce Dallas Howard, where she's trying to get all the likes and stuff like that, so she can move into a cool apartment and stuff like that. But in this one, I really liked Hang the DJ, which is about kind of like giving your life over to a dating app and stuff like that.
That's, I think, our mutual favorite one as well. Yeah.
And then I also really enjoyed the last one, Black Museum, which is kind of cool because it like for those eagle-eyed viewers and stuff like that, you can really tie it into the rest of Black Mirror. There's a lot of like little continuity nods that are in that episode, and it also has a really like awesome like twist at the end. Not like Shyamalan, what a twist, but more like an Alfred Hitchcock like type twist.
Yeah.
Hitchcockian, we'll call it.
Very fitting for Black Mirror as well.
Yeah,
you know. And I also enjoyed the first episode, the USS Callister. I thought that was a lot of fun. It was definitely different, and I thought all the actors did a hell of a job portraying their parts.
Now, one of the things that
flowing in and out of what they were supposed to be in the roles.
One of the things that I was noticing was, you remember White Christmas, where John Hamm is like he's training that woman to live inside the egg and run that woman's house and stuff like that. Kind of like how we have Alexas now. Although when that was made, Alexa and Google Home was not that big of a thing, so it was kind of interesting. But it is actually a digital clone of that person. So that is one of the things I noticed throughout the season is that there's starting to be continuity, not continuity with characters per se. Like another character hasn't shown up who was in one episode and then shown up into another, but there's starting to be continuity in the development of technology. Like you can see how what that guy was doing in USS Callister led to the technology that's used to run your home and stuff like that in White Christmas. And then you also see how in Archangel, which is a episode that is directed by Jodie Foster, which I do not agree with getting named people to start. I always like the fact that Black Mirror is kind of like a place where young directors or up and coming directors, visionaries can showcase their work. So having Jodie Foster do it kind of didn't seem, it kind of seems to rob it of like that indie feel of like that feel. But anyway, how Archangel implants a chip in your head, and then you can see her how she swipes through the memories in that wheel and gets snapshots of it, and it reminded me a lot of season 2, episode 2, The History of Us, where they have the grain in their head. Yeah, and you can see how like these little technologies lead into other technologies that we've seen in the show.
It's exciting, and I'm really happy that they went that way, and also they did it in such a subtle manner where
it's building.
They gave us the credit to observe and actually be able to figure that stuff out on our own and not be spoon-fed it.
Yeah, but it's cool because like there's a continuity of it right now. Now we all know that they all exist in the same world, and we know that there's certain episodes that exist further on in the future, like the black and white episode this season where she's fighting the robot dog. It's that's kind of like a more far-flung future. That's when technology has
that's
completely
the episode
taken,
Metalhead.
Yeah, that's when the technology has like completely taken over, right? Like the singularity occurred.
I think so, and I think that's partly why it was shot in black and white as well.
And humans are losing. And then there's also like the future episodes in the military one where they put the chip in the soldier's head so that they see a certain race of people as like mutants and stuff like that. So I mean, I think those are the two that are like kind of like most distant in the future. But it's interesting.
It is, and I'm happy that they went that way instead of like bringing characters back as far as future episodes. That would do such a disservice, I think it would series, and it makes sense with having continuity with technology, though, because
100% you could bring John Hamm back if you want to bring John Hamm back.
If there was one person,
if there's one person you can
always bring John Hamm.
You can put John Hamm in anything.
Yes,
and I think you just and not even like a starring role. You just put John Hamm in something like momentarily, and he immediately raises its credibility.
I think this year's Baby Driver kind of solidified that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Oh, he was awesome in Baby Driver, dude. I'd never feared.
He kind of stole the movie in a lot of ways. I mean, and we haven't really saw that side of him. He's actually been doing a lot of comedy stuff recently.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like in Baby Driver, he really tricks you, right? Like he is that cool guy. He's that funny cool guy that you get all the time. And then he fucking turns it on him, and I loved that. Fucking love that.
With reason, he has his ways and his rules, and also things get personal. And so shit happens.
Absolutely. But Black Mirror season 4 is definitely worth the watch. Definitely worth your time.
Absolutely.
I had a lot of fun with it.
Very happy with it.
Then the other film I watched, like I said, some of the other stuff I watched, 3 Billboards.
I'm envious. I still have not seen that. I wanted to.
Absolutely, dude. Sam Rockwell, hands down, one of his best.
I'm hearing
performances.
good things about it. He might get nominated. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Frances McDermott.
She's supposed to get nominated as well. I think.
Her performance. It's one note. She plays angry the whole time. I mean, she does well. She comes off as vulnerable when.
But it anchors the whole film.
It really
does.
does.
Start to finish,
it really does. Yeah, her story anchors the whole film, and you do wind up rooting for her, even when she does things that you might not want her to do. Like you don't want to see the character fuck up, and you still wind up rooting for her. Peter Dinklage is just in the film. I absolutely love his performance in the film. It's just so average American guy. Like, and I love it. It's. But the film is absolutely powerful. Woody Harrelson is also great in it. He's in it for a while as well. It's a really cool Coen Brothers-esque film, not written and directed by the Coen Brothers. But it is really, really, really well done. All the performances are top notch, and son of a bitch, it's funny. Like it has funny moments as well as like absolute gut-wrenching, heart-wrenching moments as well. It balances itself really fucking well, like red wine and steak. Like it's that type of film. It's really good. If you haven't seen 3 Billboards, get yourself out there and see it. Unfortunately, because I saw it too late in the year, it doesn't make our list or wasn't part of our poll for voting or stuff like that. But as far as indie films go, maybe me and you should do our top 5 right around Oscar time. We should do our top 5 Oscar baity films. right around Oscar time, just before March, last week in February. I also saw Downsizing with Matt Damon, and I was not blown away, but it was okay. It was all right.
Okay.
It was okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was intrigued with the visuals, and the storyline I thought was kind of amusing, but
It was.
I
about it.
I kind of thought it was going to be a meh
It's about
movie,
it. It's
and it looked like that from the trailer.
Christoph Waltz is your only reason to go see it, because I love Christoph Waltz. Christoph Waltz just hamming it up.
Sometimes
cheesing it up.
Jason Sudeikis, it depends.
He's barely in it. He's really not. You get a lot of Christoph Waltz though after a while. I really enjoy it.
Hey, down for that.
But it really is a Matt Damon piece. But really, I mean, what really holds it back is it's a movie with a message, and movies with messages aren't necessarily a bad thing. But when the message is clubbering you over the fucking head like the whole time, it's a little annoying. You don't like that much.
Yeah.
It's okay for the message to be subtle and stuff like that.
Especially with like a high concept kind of movie,
Like Wall-E and Finding Nemo are about conservation, right? But yet, when are they ever really about conservation? No, they're not.
Yeah.
But this is one that was really about conservation. This is really about like where we are leading the world. It was kind of like someone took an inconvenient truth and then was just like, hey man, how do we talk about the environment while putting it wrapped in a story, but still make the environment like such a big prolific part of it. I get it. However, I really felt like that was one of the things that held it back. Matt Damon was great in it, though. I mean, I felt like Matt Damon plays the everyman so well. You know, when he has to, when he plays the everyman so well.
Sure.
So, he was good in it, but overall, in its sum whole, I mean, it wasn't anything to really write home about. It was probably a B- movie, maybe even a C+. And then Disaster Artist, which me and you will be talking about. Jay, what have you been watching, man?
Well, I finally finished The Punisher, which I thought was fantastic. I liked it a lot.
How about that fucking last fight scene, dude? 20 minutes.
Oh, that was brutal.
Oh, dude. I mean,
they really did some stuff that
that shit's been out for almost 2 months. So.
I know.
So spoilers for it. When he bashes his fucking face into the glass
mirror, and then he drags it and he slides it. Oh, I felt that.
And then, I mean, me and Lauren already spoiled it on the show, but obviously that guy goes on to become Jigsaw.
Well,
which was played by Dominic West from The Wire in the Punisher Warzone, but he does go on to become Jigsaw.
That's perfect. And it was also fitting because he was always being told he was pretty boy. Pretty boy.
It was the only thing, because he didn't have a family, or he felt like he didn't have a family. It was the only thing that he learned, that he knows about himself, that really
that he can use as a tool.
Yeah, no, but he can grab it, right? Like you can always justify some of your actions or the way you are when you grow up, because that's the way an uncle you have is, or that's the way your father is. It's genetic. It's this. He doesn't have that. All he has to look at is what his face looks like. That's why his looks are so important. It's really the only thing that he has,
and his experience in the military.
Right.
And it's pretty much it, right?
Right. It's the only thing people can look at and say, like, that's what you are.
An ambition,
right? Like, no one can look at him and go like, oh, you're Italian, so you talk with your hands.
They open
like,
one episode with doing like kind of like an
Pretty Boy.
American Psycho segment almost, where
Right.
like he's getting himself all spruced up and everything. And
he also flexes in the mirror when he fucks.
Jay Short style.
Jay Short style. I wonder if Jay Short has ever chased a woman down a apartment flight of stairs and dropped a chainsaw on her. Did you ever shove a cat into an ATM, Jay?
Oh God. I mean, I'm not a cat person, but no. But no, there was some movies that I finally caught in theaters. Some indie movies, Call Me by Your Name. Also, the Disaster Artist. Like I said, we're
Is that
going to
like
talk
a
about later
sexual
on.
fetish thing? Like when you're fucking someone, you're like, call me by your name. Fuck me, Sarah. And you're like,
I mean, I guess it could be.
like you're banging a girl named Sarah, and she's like, yes, fuck me, Jay, and you're like, no, call me by your name, and she's like, fuck me, Sarah. Is that what you want? And you're like, yeah. It's opposite day. Now you fuck me. Here, I bought a strap on.
It kind of it's a line in the movie, a little pillow talk session. So it's post sex.
See, if we had a Jay's Indie Corner this week, that totally would have been Jay's Indie Corner. It would have been. I just would have wrote you into the scene.
And the killing of a sacred deer. That was from last year's movie, The Lobster. The same director and writer of that film did this film. Also Colin Farrell in it and Nicole Kidman.
Jay, have you ever given any thought to what animal you would like to be?
A lobster.
A lobster is an excellent choice.
So, but yeah, I didn't. I guess I haven't watched too much, unfortunately. But
Well, what did you think of the killing of the sacred deer, man? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what'd you think of them? I mean,
well, I mean, killing of the sacred deer was
give them a little bit. I mean, not like a full review. I mean, like half shaft it. Like,
right.
don't give them the whole shaft.
It was a movie that
half whole, half whole.
Yeah, I had a feeling what it was going to be like when I first put it on because I knew how The Lobster was, and immediately you kind of.
I've stayed away.
I'll just say they open with a shot of a close-up, high def, a real heart, like split open, like an open heart surgery kind of thing. So like, boom, right off the bat, you're like, okay,
all right,
this is different.
But see, I stayed away from it because I wasn't a huge fan of The Lobster. Like the first half of The Lobster, I found really like intriguing, and then once you learn everything there is to learn, kind of like about the world, and then you're only left with the characters. I didn't find the characters strong enough to really carry me.
I get
through
that.
the rest of that film.
Sure, no, I get that. But the thing is, he's a very unique filmmaker, and you know, sometimes with these like unique little indie films,
but unique
people
only
start
takes
overly criticizing them.
Unique
and
only
you
takes
forget
you
the
so
fact
far.
that they're so original that you know,
right? But unique
you
only
enjoy
takes
it.
unique only takes you so far, man. Like I mean, like you could be unique and you could be experimental and you can be all this, but it only takes you so far. You still have to craft a good story with great characters, and if you don't do that, you know, then you wind up losing people. You know, your uniqueness can become fatigue.
Okay, so Colin Farrell is this cardio surgeon, and he has a family. His wife is Nicole Kidman, a couple young kids, and this young boy whose father died a year or two prior.
Jay's ears just perked up. Young boy.
Stop.
Young boy.
Very creepy young boy. Played by Barry Keoghan.
You, young boy, come hither.
He was in Dunkirk. Say it.
Dunkirk.
Thank you.
You can practically see home from here.
Yeah. He was the boy that died on the boat.
They all died on boats. That was the least.
That was the dumbest thing to say. I know.
That was the least descriptive thing you could say about Dunkirk. Which guy are you talking about? Oh, he flew a plane. Well, there was 3 guys that were flying planes. He was the guy that died on a boat. Oh shit.
Never mind. But no. So it's first of all, this has like the way it's shot almost reminds me of The Shining. And the way they speak is in such a deadpan manner way. It's very particular.
The Shining, like you mean like the camera facing the character while the character's walking forward and the camera moving backwards and stuff like that.
Like very like high on the ceiling kind of thing, profile shots, like different little angles like that. And it gets weird. So the boy hangs around. He's very odd. At first I thought he was maybe autistic or something like that. He kind of acts that way, but then you realize it's not quite that, and it becomes a little weird, and
it gets a little ex machina-ish, doesn't it?
Ish,
Yeah,
yes. So some things start happening to his family.
Some things start happening.
So I don't want to. That's pretty much all I want to say because it just gets into spoiler territory.
Some things start happening,
and then we
got a
story.
movie.
Yes,
some things start happening and it ends, and then we got a movie.
His kids start to get paralyzed.
Okay. All right. Paralyzed.
And they can't figure it out.
All right. Well.
All the doctors can't figure out what the hell's going on. And So
yeah,
find out what happened.
No, I mean, just say whether you enjoyed it or not. For fuck's sakes, I wasn't asking for a synopsis. Every time I ask
I'm
you,
terrible with this shit.
I know. Every time I tell you to tell people what you thought of it,
but I know I really enjoyed it. I know it was.
You're so socially impaired that you can't tell people how you feel about things. Instead,
it's our first episode back. All right, I'm a little rusty. All right,
you give it synopsis because you were getting rusty trombones during your ski sesh.
My ski sesh. So.
Is it watchable? Is it something everyone's going to enjoy, or do you got to be cautious?
It's definitely not for everybody. It's a cautious tale. Absolutely.
Fair enough.
Right off the bat, you're going to get into it or you're not. And even I had a difficult time getting into the way the dialogue
Even
is
me,
spoken.
so sophisticated as I am, found it difficult to get involved in the film. And I enjoyed Mother.
I never said that. However, it stayed with me. That's the movie that stayed with me probably the most this year.
So, like, when this movie was recommended to me on a website, it was like, if you liked Ex Machina, watch The Killing of a Sacred Deer. If you like, this, watch The Killing of a Sacred Deer, like Black Mirror, stuff like that. So is it like that type of stuff?
Kind of, but a little weirder and a little bit more simple. Not as high conceptly broad.
Even AI was in that like list of like, if you liked AI, I mean, that's how people like were reviewing it and saying like, oh, if you like this stuff, you'll probably like this.
Sure.
So all right. So if you like that shit, you're really in, or you like The Lobster, check it out. And that's it, Jay. You're done?
I'm done.
You're done. All right. So me and Jay are going to move on over. We're going to hop right over Jay's indie corner, and we're going to get into a little bit of a mini review for The Disaster Artist. So stay tuned. That's my sick voice.
It's kind of sexy.
Right. Like normally I can only talk like this in the morning, but when I'm sick, I can talk like this all the time. I got like that.
Can you still do Sean Connery?
I could probably do Sean Connery better.
Even better. See, that's what I said. I had a feeling.
An open-handed slap is not the worst thing you could do to a woman. So stay tuned.
Ready, and action.
What line? What line?
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Okay.
Action.
What is line?
Take 13. Action.
I did not hit her. Okay. Line.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark. Take 67. Action. Action.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
So instead of Indie Corner, we have buffed that. We've gotten rid of it. It is gone. What me and Jay have for you instead is we have our review of The Disaster Artist. So think of it like it's a mini-sode, but we're going to cram it right here, smack dab, in the middle of this regular episode. So The Disaster Artist obviously stars James Franco, Dave Franco, Seth Rogen, and a slew of other special guest stars that show up throughout the film. It is the story of the infamous Tommy Wiseau, a self-made man, I guess you would say, a man of mystery, who
to this day,
who befriended a guy who was trying to become an actor. They moved to LA. He wrote and directed this film and self-funded it and self-produced it and distributed it as well. And it really comes down to, it's a story about dreamers dreaming and doing is what it comes down to in the end. But I mean, if you've ever seen The Room, came out in 2003, I believe. But however, the story of The Room started much before that. The Disaster Artist is based on a book written by Greg Sestero, who is the co-star of the film, but also best friend to Tommy Wiseau. And it is a kind of like a tell-all book. It's like his recollections of everything that happened, and it's important to remember that everything in this book, The Disaster Artist, is from one man's recollection,
from Greg's point of view, who was apparently his kind of right hand man for a long time, his best friend,
still his best friend.
They still talk every single day.
Yep.
And it's such a unique friendship, it
really is
in many ways,
but in a way it's also a friendship of convenience. Tommy needed somebody.
Sure.
He needed a friend, or wanted a friend and got one,
right.
And Greg needed someone to support him. He had no one else to support him in his life,
and not just financial too, but also to kind of give him a good push to reach for his dreams.
This is just like me and you.
Actor. Yeah.
This is just like
kind of.
I'm the one that makes everything happen.
You're my Tommy.
Am I your disaster artist? Oh, hi, Jay.
I'm gonna write a book one day.
I hope you don't. There's gonna be a lot of ums in that book. Can you record the audiobook for everybody?
I'll have James Franco do it.
No, you know what? Don't record the audiobook because I'll have to edit it. I don't feel like editing fucking 298 pages of you umming the whole time and all your clicks. Anyway, Jay, what did you think of Disaster
No
Artist,
wonder I'm
man?
single. God damn.
I know, because I tear you down all the time, and so many women listen to this show.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so this is actually a surprising delight. I mean, they paid such a great respect to these guys and to Tommy, most importantly. And it was just really about friendship and loyalty and just chasing your dream and just trying to do the best that you can.
So
and that's really the message of the film. And they really portrayed it in such a frank and honest way that was very refreshing, with a comedic and dark tones sprinkled throughout the whole film.
I don't think you could do Tommy Wiseau without making it somewhat comedic. You couldn't play him off as serious all the time.
Oh, yeah.
You know? You no one would buy it.
Yeah.
Right. It would be a tough sell. So you have to play it off as almost Borat-ish, right?
Yeah.
This awkward foreign guy.
And I got to say, like, James Franco did one hell of a job. I mean,
Right.
and if you first look at him and you get off-putted saying, like, he looks ridiculous. All that makeup on there.
There's a few times where they do close-ups, and in the makeup, they added this line down his face that's not really on James Franco's face,
the
but
chin,
it's on.
and the chin, yeah.
And that's not digitally added in. They did that with makeup. They actually the line in his face at times to get that like hard line when they do a side profile of him, it was done with like string, like almost like clear string, like tied into his face. So
and
it was really cool.
kind of if you
really cool.
if when you see Tommy Wiseau in real life, you can see that he has that kind of different kind of skin pattern or whatever on his face. He's got the strong jaw, but I don't know if it's like acne scars or something. I have no idea what it is, but he's just
fucking old.
He is
He's
old.
old.
You're right.
He's just
but
old.
nobody knows how old. That's the funny thing, you know. He's.
I just turned
you know,
14. Oh, happy birthday. No, but one of the things I really enjoyed about it was, while it is based on the book that is written by Greg Sestero, and that book is all from Greg's point of view, the film did a good job of showing things from Tommy's point of view as well, which is one of the things I really enjoyed, because if you were only sympathizing with Greg Sestero throughout this film, you would have hated Tommy. You know what I mean? You would have felt like Tommy was ruining everybody's lives throughout this entire film, but instead, they give you enough of Tommy throughout the film that you do feel like, you know, he's a person. You know what I mean? Like they make him a person and not a personality, and that's what he is to so many people. You know, he's in GIFs, he's in YouTube videos, he shows up in Tim and Eric and stuff like. You know, he's a personality.
Yes,
but this film made him a person, and that's something that's kind of unique for a guy like him, because he's existed as that character. You know, from that film. You know, he existed. You know, who knows whether Tommy Wiseau is really who this guy is?
And let's be honest, I think that's a big reason why this movie became such a cult growing success. The Room was because of him as a person. I think, which is very heartwarming for me, because, you know, he's an odd duck that doesn't usually fit in the Hollywood pond.
So,
and
for a long time, they said it was a mystery where he's from and all this stuff.
Right.
He said where he's from. He is from the Eastern Bloc in Europe. He did move to Paris, and then he later moved to Louisiana. So he always saw himself as, and he talks about this actually on Jimmy Kimmel, I believe, with him and James Franco on Jimmy Kimmel.
Right.
So he talks about this. He talks about that, you know, he says he always says he's from Louisiana because he wanted to be American. He lived in America. He's American. I'm American.
and he
now.
lived there, so
Right.
he was just from there.
Right.
So,
but actually, he said, you know, he's not from New Orleans. He's from just outside of New Orleans and stuff like that. He lived there with a family member, and then he moved out to San Francisco. He started several small businesses out there, selling from carts and stuff on boardwalks and down by the bay. And then he opened up a couple stores. And then after he got hit by a car, and almost died, and which he mentions in the movie.
Sure.
He decided to pursue his passion. So if you actually trace the amount of money he could have made by running several small businesses, that amount of money does not equate to what he has. So where this money came from, no one knows. He was arrested in Paris inside of a hostel on a drug raid, but he claims that he was not doing drugs and was not dealing drugs at the time. But there is the rumor that this money does come from mob money, from drug money, from all this other stuff. But you will never solve that story. But he's not as big of a mystery as everybody thinks. He was probably born sometime in 1955, 1956 from what he has said. So.
And the bottomless pit of money that they reference in the movie.
It could have came from an insurance claim for anybody knows.
You never know. It could be from the accident. It could be from, mobsters out in Eastern Europe.
Right.
Who knows? But he was able to do whatever he wanted.
He's certainly not a man in hiding, that's for sure, because he's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But Tommy Wiseau is not his...
Because of the brain injury, maybe he just kind of lost that filter.
Tommy Wiseau is not his original name either.
Sure.
He was called the Birdman. Wiseau is apparently I believe it's a French word for bird, or wise or whiz or something like that. It's a French word for bird. So anyway, he wound up taking, because he was Tommy the Birdman, he wound up taking Tommy Wiseau as his legal name in America. So there are some mysteries have been solved, even though this film does paint it as he's a complete mystery. Even some of this stuff was news to James Franco as he was sitting in Jimmy Kimmel. Because he sat down with Tommy Wiseau several times before making the film, but he really didn't get to know him until during the press tours and stuff like that.
Which happens a lot, actually, to be honest, sometimes, because everybody has their different own process, and I don't think Tommy wanted to be there, and I don't think they wanted him around either, because they weren't sure how he was going to act.
No, but he loved the film, and he's been promoting it, and he's been promoting it extremely well, because it's nothing but gravy for him, right? It only pushes him into the forefront,
big time.
So what does all this have to do with the review? What it has to do with the review is that, Tommy Wiseau's personality is it's extremely hard to describe and to capture, and James Franco did it so well. Even if James Franco is not playing the real Tommy, as far as the character he's playing in this film, in The Disaster Artist, it's 100% believable, and you go with it, you enjoy it, right? You even laugh at it, but you also feel for it as well. Yeah. That's one of the beautiful things.
And it's all in his face and in his tone of voice at times, and his mannerisms and his behavior, and a lot of times it's kind of dickish at times.
It's dickish because it's blunt, and that's not how Americans are. We're not blunt. We don't speak bluntly, right? We speak
not often.
No, we speak two-faced and out of the sides of our mouths and everything like that. And Tommy he's just blunt. He says what's directly on his mind. He says what's in his heart. He says he wears it on his sleeve and stuff like that.
And I love that.
Even when he's being an asshole, he's just telling the truth. Like his truth, his version of the truth, what he's seeing as the truth, right? Which is one of the things I really loved. Yeah. What I really loved about the film also is just, we all have dreams. We are all people who dream of doing these things. And these are all elements that are in the book, but I really think that's the heart of what James Franco saw in this story, was that everybody has a dream, and it all depends on how we go about it. My only downside to the film is and this isn't it, even though it's part of the true story, it's just well, that kind of sucks, because I have a dream. I would love to make a film like that. Yeah, maybe it's not that big of a dream, but I don't have any benefactor with fucking endless pits of money to throw $6 million into making this film. But the comedy is the big draw to the film, right?
Sure, and they do a good job of it, because it's not slapstick. They're not intending to try and make it funny. It's just funny in the circumstances, as far as how
that's what
situational, as far as his character and what he's doing, saying throwing football.
Right.
He wants to. America, let's throw football. I play football all the time. Yeah.
Your Tommy Wiseau was so good.
No,
let me tell you,
it's terrible.
It's so good.
And then he throws it in the worst way possible, as far as throwing the football.
Great,
stuff like
game.
that. Yeah, stuff like that is just kind of endearing in a way too, and funny, because he just wants a friendship. He wants to build a rapport with somebody.
That's what I was getting at. The humor is disarmament, right? The humor is what draws you into the film in the first act. Even so much so that the humor kind of goes on, that first act goes on a little bit too long. I feel like the humor part of it goes on a little bit too long. It wears on you. But once it hits the second act,
a little bit. But I think they try to do that just to set up the rest of the film, as far as
it was too much setup. It was too much, a little bit too much setup. That's what I felt like. The first act just went on just about 10 or 15 minutes too long. They probably could have cut that back a little bit. That's it is what it is. It doesn't really take away from the movie that much. I'm not dissing the movie too hard for that. But by about 20 minutes, maybe Nah, maybe a little bit more than that. Maybe about 30 minutes in, I was getting a little worn on that humor. It wasn't until like he started, he really started writing the room and stuff like that like we got into the meat and potatoes of the story once they get to LA and everything like that. But
and then even seeing like how Greg's journey is. They're struggling throughout the whole year trying to make it in LA, and they're Tommy starts just trying to be like Greg and be an actor, and they're just getting shut down. No. And then they finally realize, or at least Tommy does, I'm just going to make a movie. He writes his own movie and makes his own script.
The way the book and the way that the film portray it is that Greg had a shot, right? Like Greg could have grinded and done small roles and worked his way up and been somebody if it wasn't for Tommy and this film and stuff like they really pay it as like a bit of like a resentment until the very end and stuff.
Sure. But I think that was probably partially true. I mean, yeah, he probably had conflicted feelings with loyalty with his friend and commitments, and then also, that's the thing. Like what happens in the movie's circumstantial.
He could have been on Malcolm in the Middle, Jay.
Exactly.
He could have been on Malcolm in the Middle. That's where everybody gets their start.
But that's something that could have easily happened in Hollywood.
Yeah, no.
All it takes is one person to know somebody. Like, he was in his girlfriend's yoga class. So he automatically trusted them, right? And he's like, "Oh, I'm an actor. I'm trying to make it. Oh, well, I got this perfect little guest spot for you to be a lumberjack."
Well, you got a beard.
Yeah, you got this great gnarly beard. Oh my God, it looks terrible on
Dave Franco.
Ooh.
Jay, why don't you just go hang out in coffee shops in Hollywood until you find someone and go like, I'm trying to be an actor. Like, you know what? I need a really tall guy. That's what this role calls for, and you're it.
I have family in the LA area.
Yeah,
I can make it. You'll see me on the silver screen.
But this film, like I said, like we start off, it's ultimately about dreamers having dreams and fulfilling them and stuff like that. No matter but the outcome of your dream may not be what you envisioned. But if you roll with the punches, you still can succeed.
Which takes a little bit for him to get over.
So in real life,
years.
It didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
Like it didn't happen at that screening. Right?
And that screening was a little over the top. I seriously doubt it came across the way they portrayed it in the film at all. But I don't mind it. I thought it worked. It was a nice little finale for the end. But yeah, I know. I read up on it a little bit, and yeah, it did take him a few years to get over it.
The film came out in 2003.
And to finally even admit that it was...
But the midnight showings and the selling of rotten fruit and stuff so that you could shout out and
spoons and stuff.
That didn't start till about 2006. So it's about 3 years. Tommy felt like a failure for 3 years before he embraced what...
That's a long time, Dave.
Right. Yeah. It's a long time to feel like a failure. And I wish the film kind of got into that a little bit. I wish it took that 3 years to like show that side of it. But the fact is, no one really wrote about that.
But the message they wanted to portray was portrayed on film, essentially. They wanted to have an insight on this guy and the character. But I think the through line was they really wanted to have that uplifting story arc.
That's
not
true.
So much... the roller coaster.
Yeah, it's true.
Not the heavy roller coaster. I mean, a little bit of roller coaster ride, but not too much of a bad one. And I give them credit for that. I mean, it's a movie. I mean, whatever. It's a Hollywood movie. If you do your homework, you know the reality of it. It's big Hollywood movie.
This looks just like the alley outside. Why wouldn't we just film out there? This is not Mickey Mouse show. This is big Hollywood production.
Oh God.
Anyway, Jay. Overall, man, what's your score for Disaster Artist?
I'm gonna give it a B+. I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
It's definitely what I wanted it to be.
Okay.
But it's no perfect movie, and there's little minor elements sprinkled throughout that kind of bother me. But overall, I still really enjoyed it. Yeah.
I'm a little bit higher than you. I really enjoyed the story. I really enjoyed everything that was going on in it. I have a little bit more of attachment to the room. I've seen the room several times. I have gone to a midnight screening of it. And to see like these scenes that I've seen 100 times before, like just done in this style and stuff like that, and played for this level of comedic effect in the same way that we play it in our head, it kind of all worked. And I think really humanizing Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero and stuff like that, and really bringing that human element to it and bringing a lot of emotion to it. Like it really resonated with me a lot. I'm giving it an A-, man. I'm a dreamer. Through and through, I'm
Me
a
too,
dreamer.
yeah.
So I an A- for me, 100%. And it's really my only knock on the film, where the humor was on point at so many times.
Well, you saw the end credits where they're doing side-by-side shots.
Yes.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool. And then also, to this day, Greg Sestero and Tommy Wiseau still travel around the world
I love that.
doing midnight
that.
screenings of this film and talking. And they currently, they've done other movies together, and they've worked on scripts together, and they have a film coming out very soon, according to Tommy. So who knows when? But I mean,
I hope so.
They're still working together, and whether you want to say it's a friendship of convenience or whether it's the only chance that Greg Sestero has at doing anything with his life at this point, it is what it is. I think in the end he was able to let go of that stuff and just be friends, and that's exactly what I've had to do with you on this show. It's just let go of all your problems and just say, you know what, we're friends. I'll put up with it no matter what. Oh, hi, Mark.
You thought you got more, but then you realized you got less.
I thought I had a partner, and really what I found out was I had a problem who was a friend, and now I have to manage the problem while still having the friend.
Problem, not a problem. Come on.
No, I'm just fucking with you.
It's hard to be partners in a podcast. It's true.
No, it really is.
It's kind of, unfortunately, it's kind of like a one-man show thing. It's hard to have two people edit a podcast show or
here's one of the cool things. Like,
it's just like any radio show when you think about it. I
was thinking about.
There's always one person.
And we're done with a review and stuff like that. But again, we're always a conversational podcast. Whatever comes up, me and you will just discuss.
Definitely.
I wanted to do an episode. I don't know whether I would do it as like a Podfix Presents, just a one-shot episode, but or an episode of our show where it's just like, I want to do like a Q&A. Like, ask me any question you want about like starting a podcast, because don't think that like, this is the most successful podcast, because spoiler alert, it's really not. Despite our professional quality.
Throw that spoiler sign warning up first.
But also, like, me and you have had a podcast that's failed hard.
Sure.
And it took us a year.
And we were dreamers. I mean, we were the Tommy Wiseau's. I mean, we really just put it out there, and we thought we had a great idea.
Fuck, man, we still are. I mean, like,
we are. I know. But in that time, I remember, like, we were just gleaming, like beaming with just enthusiasm and excitement. We're doing that.
No, I mean, you were. I mean, I was super realistic that like, we're never going to make money doing this. We're never going to become famous doing this. Don't worry about it. But I mean, we had that show, Movie Cocktail. And we brought it back.
Older gentlemen doing something like this and making that step. Not many people do that, as adults.
There's a lot of podcasts out there, but when you think about the amount of people that actually say, like, I want to sit down and I want to talk to somebody about this, I want to put my voice out there. Not many people do that. Like, not many people do that. And I think that's one of the things, like, people who do podcasts and people who put themselves out there into a medium, regardless of how of how much effort is put into it. It's hard. It's hard to put yourself out there, right?
It is. And you have to do it honestly. That's the most important thing.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't be putting up a front.
So what I wanted to do was I wanted to do like a Q&A.
Well, we kind of do.
I wanted to do like a Q&A where like people ask me questions on Twitter or on Facebook and stuff like that. And we kind of talk about like how to do a podcast. Like, because there's a lot of people out there who are interested in doing a podcast, but it's intimidating to start. And I'll be honest, when me and Jay talked about doing a podcast, the way we started with a voice recorder sitting in the middle of a table. And then our second episode of Movie Cocktail, I went out and I bought like a blue snowball microphone. And
that lasted for a long time.
And we kind of just progressed from there and stuff like that. So what I'm saying is like the Disaster Artist, it's about dreamers dreaming. And I think there's a little bit of that in all of us and everything we do. We all have our daydreams. We all have these dreams and stuff like that. But have you ever thought about what it takes to make that happen? And have you ever taken any steps towards that? Maybe you should.
Well said.
Just one step towards it and see where it goes, because it could tumble into you having an entire room of your house dedicated towards podcasting where there's a bunch of mics set up and sitting around, and maybe your wife hates that. Maybe you just roll with those punches. So coming up next, me and Jay have a brand new drunk scene for you and 2 brand new beers to do review in the beginning of 2018. So stay tuned. And now it's time for the beer segment.
Cheers, mate.
What the fuck?
I can't do accents like
You can't do
You know that.
anything.
Come on.
All right, so Jay, this month we are doing all beers selected by, I don't know, our beer groupie? I don't know, what do we call Christina?
I don't
She's
know.
our beer friend, I guess. I don't
Yes.
know. Our beer
Yes.
friend. So, I mean, she would be your groupie. She's in love with you. Like,
She is.
she makes Google eyes at you.
Big time. Yeah.
At me, I walk in and she's like, what's the hideous chud one today?
Yeah, she's oh man. Yeah. She burns right through me, those eyes. And she has the craziest green eyes.
It's contacts, you dumb fuck.
She swears they're not.
They are contacts. Fuck that. They are contacts.
That's what I was saying, but she swears.
No one has emerald green eyes except the Joker.
They're crazy.
Anyway, so she's gonna be. She's the woman that runs our local beer store that me and Jay go to get all of our craft beers and stuff for review. She's aware of the show, so she is going to be selecting beers for both of us for the rest of this month. So every beer we drink comes courtesy of Christina at Philly Craft Beer Store.
Yes. In Langhorne /
No, I think
Trails Hills?
it's technically Langhorne, and
Okay.
it's on Oxford Valley Road
Yes.
in Langhorne, right next to the Super Wawa. So make sure that you go on down to Philly Craft Beers. Anyway, we were not a paid,
not paid.
not a paid promotion. All right, Jay. So let's get into our drunk scene. Since for Movie Cocktail, which was our Fear and Loathing episode, Rob said that he wanted to do John Hughes movies from the 80s. So I figured let's do a John Hughes drunk scene. The John Hughes drunk scene that we're talking about is the morning after when Long Doc Dong got so drunk that he drove Grandpa's car into a big lake.
Hey, Howard, there's your Chinaman.
Oh, thanks, Fred. Hi, Don. What the? What's he doing on the ground there?
What's happening? What's happened?
Open a mirror in front of his mouth.
Howard, he's dead.
Oh, shit. I paid $7,000 for a wedding. I'll never see it.
Oh, watch your language, Mr. Dirty Mouth.
Oh, thank God he is still warm.
Oh, good.
Here,
I'll help you. Canine cologne.
Oh, no more Yankee, my wanky. The donga need food.
Hell, he's 3 sheets to the wind. He's drunk as a skunk.
Oh, why don't you shut up, Fred? Shut up. Dong. Dong.
Dong, Grandpa is talking to you.
Dong. Where is my automobile?
Automobile? Lake. Big lake. Why, you little scuzzbag. Wow!
And everybody's heading off to the wedding. Grandpa's clapping in his face. Dong.
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 And he's passed out face down in the front yard.
Where's my automobile? Automobile? And it's so incredibly racist.
Oh, it is. It is.
The portrayal of Long Duck Dong in that movie is so racist. And this guy showed up in a lot of 80 films as like your stereotypical Asian guy. Like he shows up in Gremlins 2 and he's just a Japanese man just snapping pictures. Just like snapping pictures like the whole time. And I was like, how stereotypical. That's all this guy made a career out of doing. But I love this movie because he's supposed to be the foreign exchange student. He's supposed to be the guy that's there, and he's like this straight and narrow type guy until the corrupt American teens like corrupt him and get him to drink.
Yeah.
And I love the other grandpa who's just like, well, hell, he's 3 sheets to the wind. He smells like canine cologne.
Yeah. And then he's just laughing and just hysterical and just making all the sound effects of the crash into the lake and everything.
Because he can't speak English.
No. It was amazing. It was amazing. And you could just see all the just how mortified all the guys were. And then the grandmother just gets so pissed off. She
kicks him in the
him
nuts.
right in the nuts. It's like the best.
You little dirtbag. It's 16 Candles is like I mean when you think of John Hughes films, like a lot of people really go to the Breakfast Club. I feel like that 16 Candles is the epitome of teenage angst. Like how angsty Molly Ringwald is throughout that entire movie is just the epitome of everything you think about when you think of like a John Hughes film. So here's to you, Long Duck Dong, as we get into our beer reviews. Jay, what do you got for your beer?
I got myself from Christina, Devil's Backbone Brewing Company, No Problemo. It's a Mexican-style dark lager with natural chocolate flavor and spices. Now, this is a special, unique little beer. It's a
because it's not just Devil's Backbone that is brewing this. Two brewmasters,
also Golden Road,
right?
Brewing.
Two brewmasters from two different breweries came together to come up with this recipe. So
it's brewed in the Virginia heartland,
right? Well, so that's where Devil's Backbone's from. I'm not a huge fan of anything from Devil's Backbone. I've had several. We actually reviewed their 8-point lager on here, which is like an 8-point deer, blah blah blah. I wasn't too impressed with it. So what are you thinking on this one?
So this is 5.7 alcohol by volume and a low 22 IBUs. It is very subtle and very drinkable. It's actually has a lot of lager flavor in the back end, but up front, you get the nice smell of a little bit of chocolate, and the spices are pretty mild. I'm kind of curious how the Mexican style dark lager comes into play, I guess because of the lager finish, but it is still pretty drinkable, and I do kind of enjoy it, but it isn't anything special. But I'll give it a decent score, a 3.5 out of 5.
And these compilations have become kind of like a bit of a popular thing. Like Stone's been known to collaborate with other breweries.
I haven't had too many.
Dogfish Head's been known to collaborate with other breweries and stuff like that. Yeah, some of these compilations, they were big a couple years ago. It's something you can do as a smaller brewery. You hook up with maybe a bit of a larger brewery. It helps you stand out a little bit. Yeah. And you try to make something that's truly stand out, but also extremely experimental. And that's kind of what these usually are. These are one-offs. You're never really going to find these again after this. So what I am drinking for my beer is, and again, I really apologize for my voice. I can actually hear it in the audio. It's just getting worse. I am drinking the Thomas Hooker Brewing Company out of Bloomfield, Connecticut, chocolate truffle stout made with Munson's chocolate, also from Connecticut. Go figure. This is an absolute full-bodied stout, dude. But it is also silky smooth. It's 100% a milk stout. It is 5.9% alcohol per volume, and it really hits you with the chocolate notes up front, but it doesn't hit you with that like hard, toasted malt flavor at the end. It's super subtle, really silky smooth, goes down really easy. I could definitely, this is one of those stouts that I can drink more than a few of. And it definitely has that caramel flavor, a little bit of like oatmeal flavor as well. It's really
So it's one
nice.
of the more like creamier type of
it's
stouts,
really nice.
yeah.
As far as stouts go, like I really love like the 1050 and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But that's on the other end of stouts where it's a little bit harsher, like a little bit bolder in flavor. This one's a little bit more easygoing. It's more of an easygoing
like a dessert stout almost.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, but you can drink quite a few of these. So I'm going to give it a 4.5, dude. I actually really enjoy it. And I'm not a huge stout fan, so to have a stout like this that I really enjoy, it's kind of a big deal. I like it a lot.
Very cool.
All right.
So far, so good from Christina. Right?
Absolutely. No, it was our first week. Let's see how she cleans.
She already
up.
picked them out. Apparently, I gave her a heads up. I'm like, look, that's gonna be 8 beers. You gotta plan accordingly.
Did she throw some IPAs in for me? She knows that's my favorite.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. All right, so coming up next, me and Jay are going to be doing our year in review. We're going to take a look at the films that we have reviewed the lowest and the films that we have reviewed the highest. We did a Twitter poll, so we're going to discuss those 8 films, since we could only fit 4 spots on Twitter polls. And then we and Jay are also going to discuss our favorite film of the year and our most disappointing. That doesn't mean it's the worst, and it doesn't mean it's the best. It is our favorite and our most disappointing.
Yes.
So don't fucking...
There's a difference.
Yeah. So don't fucking hang us by our testicles or anything. Like we're just talking about what me and Jay enjoyed this year. So stay tuned for that. You got that real radio voice going on. You're listening to J-Man and D-Bag in the morning. back, and this is going to be the 2017 year in motherfucking review. Me and Jay reviewed a shit ton of fucking films this year, but the fact is, me and Jay only really review films that we want to see. So it's got to be films that me and Jay want to see for us to go to see it. We have to have some hook, something that draws us to it, something that makes us want to see it. So we saw Assassin's Creed because I'm a video game fucking nerd. So I wanted to go see this video game movie that I thought had a chance at being a decent film. So I wound up going to the movie theaters to seeing it, and it was a fucking flop. It was one of the shittiest films of the entire year.
And of course, I knew that going ahead of time, having to go with work. With my kids wanting to see it, and of course that was terrible for me.
Then you did it for the kids, and you did it for me.
I know.
So when we talk about our worst films of the year, just please understand that Jay and I didn't go see Transformers 5. We didn't go see Monster Trucks. We didn't go see Emoji Movie. We didn't go see Rings. We didn't see Bye Bye Man. We didn't see Happy Fucking Birthday, You're Gonna Die, whatever the fuck that movie was. We didn't see that shit because from Jump Street, from the minute we saw those trailers, we knew that is not a film for us. We didn't see Geostorm because we knew it wasn't for us.
But also sometimes movies we just never got around to seeing, whether it be like it's in and out of the theater and we just never had time to get out to the theater and see it, or whatever, it's just how it is.
Unfortunately, movies that me and Jay didn't review together won't be on this list either, because the way our main reviews work they are films that are reviewed by both of us, and it gets a combined score and it gets averaged out. So I saw Fences, but Jay didn't see Fences. And Jay has seen, The Killing of a Scared Deer, and I haven't seen that. So if Jay gave that sacred, whatever. If Jay gives that an A+, it's really uncontested. I might watch that film, give it a D, and our combined score might wind up being a C-, because that's kind of the beauty of the Super Movie Brothers is me and Jay come from two different camps. I'm a big fan of big Hollywood blockbusters. Jay's a fan of little indie darlings, and he does find things to enjoy in those big blockbusters, and those sometimes go on to be his favorite films of the year. Most of my favorite films of the year will barely skirt the indie level, but that's kind of why me and Jay do those combined scores, is because we level each other out. And at times, me and Jay are right on point. I mean, for Star Wars The Last Jedi, we both gave it an A-, and it was we were right on point. However, even though I gave it an A-, as a film, I gave it an A-. As a Star Wars fan, as a movie fan, and as someone who enjoys going to the theaters, in my head, that was my favorite film of the year, kind of. Like, it's one of them anyway. Yeah. Definitely in my top 5. So that's what me and Jay are going to do. We are going to discuss our 4 highest rated movies of the year. The reason it's 4 is because the Twitter poll we put up on Twitter only allowed for 4 spots instead of 5. So we're going to talk about our 4 highest rated films of the year. Most of them are big blockbuster epics. We're also going to talk about our 4 worst reviewed films of the year. These are films that me and Jay reviewed and saw. We didn't go out there and see all the garbage that was out there this year. So some of the films you might not agree with are some of the worst, but me and Jay saved $200 this year by not seeing Emoji Movie, Rings, and all that other shit. So, because me and Jay still pay for all this ourselves. There's no Patreon. There's no anything else. So it's all on us. So then me and Jay will do our top 5 most disappointing films of the year. It's why we always label it our most disappointing, because these are films, again, that we wanted to see, saw. We're not happy with the result.
Or are we just going to do one?
No, we're going to do all 5.
Okay.
We're going to do this very quick. There's not going to be a whole lot of discussion, because if people want to hear the discussion, we already did a review episode on it. Yeah. So if you're really curious and you're really hooked by things that we say during this segment here, you can always pop back and listen to the review episode. All episodes are available out there. All right, Jay. So let's get started. First off, we started off. Let's start with the worst, man. Let's go low first.
I like that.
Let's low ball it first.
Low ball.
So that's the way I like to do it in bed, right? I mean, you start off bad, get better, and then they kind of
low key style, right? Just like Jay.
Low key like Jay. So I was hitting this snow bunny after a ski sesh. So anyway, so me and Jay watched a lot of films this year. We reviewed a ton of films this year, but the worst ones that were reviewed by us were Live by Night, Alien Covenant, Assassin's Creed, and The Great Wall. So these are the films that got the worst reviews from us. I'll be honest, Jay probably gave Alien Covenant a little bit of a higher review than I did, but because I was so spurred and such a jilted lover over Alien Covenant that I gave it an F. I mean, I gave it a C. I plummeted that thing's fucking grade like no other, because that thing hurt my fucking balls to watch. It hurt me so bad. So anyway, out of these 4 films that we put up on Twitter, and out of 247 votes, Assassin's Creed was everybody's worst film of the year. Assassin's Creed with 34%, The Great Wall with 29%, Alien Covenant with 28%, and Live by Night got 9%. A lot of people, I'm not saying that they're digging on Live by Night, but I don't think a lot of people saw Live by Night enough to actually
That's
click
why it was
on
a bomb.
This is actually, Live by Night is Nick from Epic Film Guys. It's his worst film of the year. It hurt him so much. But for me,
it hurt me too, because I was looking forward to that film a lot, and it was very disappointing.
Alien Covenant was extremely disappointing for me as well. I mean, that was my most disappointing film of the year. I'll just be 100% honest. That's why it's on the list. It got, even though it didn't get an F from us, it got a D+ because of Jay's ridiculously high C score and my ridiculously low F score, or probably D- score. It wound up with a D in the end. Or D+. I really think out of the films we reviewed, these are the ones that me and you hated most vehemently, and were most disappointed by. But of course, we got a top 5 list to do, so let's go ahead and get into that. All right, Jay, as always, metrosexuals go first. What is your number 5?
My number 5 is actually an indie. I actually took out The Mummy and I put Song to Song on, Terrence Malick's film with an amazing ensemble cast that I just wished. I was like blind, optimistic, wishful that this was going to be a different kind of movie.
Terrence Malick's always hot and cold. So
it was just like the same old recent bullshit of meandering nothingness.
That's all Terrence Malick
God,
but
it was
get out of
it
here.
was just so frustrating.
Just
I really wanted it to be better.
No one who listened to this show cared about that. My number 5 is The Mummy, and the reason that it's my number 5 is that we didn't really expect it to be good. Me and you kind of called it was going to be bad from Jump Street, but we had hope for it because we kind of liked the idea of like this dark universe.
And they really hyped it up. So we were kind of like, well, maybe they do have a good movie on their hands. So they were hyping this up, right?
Yeah, it got to the point. Then it wound up being extremely cliched, extremely rushed, and you just felt like that entire production was rushed. Tom Cruise was not an action star in it, right? Like they almost tried to Brendan Fraser his character up a little bit to make him kind of match what was in that 1999 film, and in the end, like they would have been better served by bringing Brendan Fraser back and kind of retelling the story, or
probably
putting him in a 5th one or 4th one, and instead and making that part of the dark universe than what they wound up delivering us. I mean, the film was the villain was terrible. I mean, don't get me wrong, production quality and CGI and stuff like that, it was all fine. I mean, that was all fine. But really, it just came down to script and story. I mean, that was just such a problem. And even Russell Crowe's character kind of tying this world together and stuff like that wasn't enough of a tease for a larger universe to really get you drawn in. And really,
even his look wasn't effective. Right. Like they did a little too much CGI in the wrong place.
And the whole ending just fell so flat. The whole third act of the film was just so flat. And the humor that they tried to add, like that action adventure humor and stuff like that. It was didn't feel like a dark universe, right? Like you didn't feel like this was a dark film. No. You didn't feel like you were dealing with a movie monster, something that was somewhat suspenseful but horror with a little bit of action.
Not even
mixed
close.
in, which is what they were touting was going to be in this dark universe. Instead, you kind of got like this little bit of a slapsticky,
which makes me wonder if Tom Cruise had a little bit more hand in this universe.
I don't think he did. I don't know. No, I don't think he doesn't get his hand in the cookie jar too much. I mean, money wise, he does.
Royally.
I think they really did. But no, that's my number 5. Jay, what's your number 4?
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay.
Like we talked earlier on in the year, I was just really hopeful. You know, they had a little bit of a time off from the previous.
You were far more hopeful than I was.
You were, and I really thought that they were going to come back with something strong. I heard some good things about it, and
you didn't hear good things. You heard the same thing I heard.
I guess
it's better than on Stranger Tides.
Yeah,
that's what you heard.
Yeah, barely. In some parts, Stranger Tides was better.
Yeah.
So this movie just was bad, and Johnny Depp just completely phoned it in, and just right there for the paycheck.
For me, on Stranger Tides was terrible. It was awful. I mean, it was pretty much abysmal. But the reason that Dead Man Tell No Tales doesn't make my list
was supposed to right the ship, right?
Is because Dead Man Tell No Tales was better than On Stranger Tides. So if it's not the worst one in the franchise, I'm not going to throw it on my most disappointing list. It means it kind of exceeded my expectation if it was better than the one that came before it.
All right.
unless you were, I didn't see Transformers, so I'm sure that would be on my list. But Transformers stopped exceeding any expectations after 2.
Yeah,
I haven't watched the Transformers.
But the fact
since
that
2.
I actually was trying. Okay.
All right, my number 4, Kong Skull Island, another one that is kind of, it's not the start of a franchise. Like that was actually Gareth Edwards' Godzilla in 2014. That's kind of the start of this franchise. But they've kind of built a world on that film.
That's my number 3, so I can just talk about that as well.
So Kong Skull Island, I mean, the effects were awesome. Every time Kong is on the screen, it is cool as shit. But everything that I know a lot of people really like John C. Reilly in the film. I kind of felt that they used him to humorous effect too much, and I actually felt that making him the final part of the film, making him the ending part of the film was just a little bit too schmaltzy, a little bit too cliched and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I also disliked the fact that we had all these human characters that were completely inconsequential to the story. They really meant nothing to the overall story in the end, except that they were the reason that the creatures woke up. Kong was there. Kong fought them. Actually, the only thing the humans did was impede Kong in performing the service that he was performing for that island and stuff like that, and stopping the monsters from spreading. And the fact that you got some big stars in this film, man. You got Tom Hiddleston and you got Brie Larson. And they did nothing. Brie Larson was a set of tits with blonde hair to be there for Kong, and Tom Hiddleston was touted as like this adventurer guy, and we really only get snippets of that, and the whole way he's introduced in that bar scene was just fucking ham-fisted and shitty.
Painful.
A lot of this movie was extremely painful.
There was a lot of studio cheese just oozing off the screen with this one. It was really unfortunate because we were excited for it. I mean,
I was super excited for it.
The trailer was pretty hot, and this was really disappointing
because it Suicide Squaded us. It hit us with that awesome soundtrack.
It did.
And it cut it into its trailer, and we're like, "Fuck, this looks awesome." And then even the film wound up being a lot like Suicide Squad, where like the whole first act is assembling the squad and stuff like that, getting it all together with awesome music, and then they get to the island and the ball drops and stuff like that. But everything with Kong was really cool, which is why this winds up being number 4 instead of higher up on the list. But it had some cool elements, but ultimately, man, I wound up hating this film.
So what's your number 3?
All right, Jay, my number 3, The Great Wall. This had zero expectation from us. However, it was making a lot of money at the time because it was released. It was released internationally before it was released here. So actually, like what was,
and I think it was fully funded from China, correct?
Right. Yeah. What we wound up doing a review for was because me and Jay touted throughout all of our trailer parks for this that this was going to be fucking terrible. We knew it was going to be awful. It looked awful, and then we started hearing like it's getting rave reviews in the international market, i.e. the Asian international market.
Right.
And me and Jay were kind of intrigued by the fact that it was getting rave reviews, making so much money over there, that we thought maybe there was a nugget in here. We didn't think it was going to be our film of the year, but we thought maybe there was some elements in here that we would like. We wound up going to see it, and fuck no, there was nothing redeemable about this film at all. The acting was all terrible. There was no character arcs whatsoever to be seen, and even the CGI of the monsters left a lot to the imagination. Like, it was severely lacking in a lot of ways. The only thing that I really liked was its use of color, and that comes because this is the director of House of Flying Daggers. You know, it is a very visual director.
Very visual.
Yeah, and there's some elements of I love House of the Flying Daggers. Like, I love those type of modern kung fu movies, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Hero, stuff like that. And those elements were in here. However, it was like this monster flick, this medieval monster flick that just really didn't pan out. It didn't become what I thought it possibly could be. And
Matt
the fact
Damon.
And then making like these dragons, and then it winds up being again like Independence Day, which isn't on our list because me and Jay knew that was gonna be shit. Like Independence Day Resurgence, it winds up being a very reminiscent of things we've seen before. Oh, you just got to kill the queen, and then the rest of them all just die. Like, I hate that story trope. I hate that plot device. I despise it. I'm sick of people using it.
old.
It is. It's been done. They did it in
forever.
James Cameron did it in Aliens in 1986. It's been going on for a long time, even before that. So,
all right, my number 2 is Kingsman: The Golden Circle.
So Kingsman: The Golden Circle really disappointed you. That was actually, it's not in my favorite. It's not my top 5s.
No,
but
it did.
It's not even in my top 10. Not even my top 10. But I enjoyed it.
There were parts, sequences, but that's about it for me. I really was hoping for something more. I really,
Mark Strong stole the show. I mean,
thank God, because his character deserved it.
I want to defend this movie right now because I feel like it was a natural, and I feel like it was a natural.
Julianne Moore was a horrible villain.
It was She
took Samuel L. Jackson's role and just went tenfold with it and just went.
And
bonkers.
Elton John jokes got a little long and
that too. That was a little too much.
However, I felt they picked up the story and put the Kingsman in a new place by the end that it left me hooked and made me want to see the next one.
Yeah. Well. Okay. Yes. You're right. But everything before that was utter garbage.
I don't think. I mean, it was no.
I did not like it.
This was not as bad as Quantum of Solace, right? Like it's not that bad, right? Like it had its fun. It was fun, just like the original one was.
But I wasn't having any fun. This was not hitting my buttons at all.
You don't have a fun bone in your body. You don't know how to have fun.
This wasn't even that much of a fun movie. That's the problem. Like it wasn't really.
They
that
made
much
whiskey,
fun.
Jay. It's your favorite thing. How do you
know.
not love that?
I know.
All the promotional material was surrounded around whiskey. How do you not
goddamn
love that?
But still, moments, little sequences.
One of the things I
trickled
didn't
in there. That was it.
Was the twist that he wants to. His family was killed, so he wants to do something to stop drugs because his family was killed by drug dealers, but also gain money by taxes, and he turns on the statesman because of that.
Yeah, that
was a long yarn to go on. So I mean, I could see your disappointments, but on your top 5 most disappointing, did you even like the Kingsman original one that much?
Did.
To put
not that much, but I liked it. It was still like an A- movie for me, probably. And then
hey man, personal list. I can't take you to task too much on it.
But no, this is definitely personal, and I had a lot of hopes for it, and it just didn't hit it for me.
All right, man. It is what it is.
Give me your number 2, David.
My number 2. I was gonna put The Dark Tower in this spot. I was honestly, it was gonna be there.
I left this off on my list because I was not familiar with the material as much as you were.
Here's the problem. Dark Tower's not going to wind up being on this list. I want to address it because it was a terrible film. It's fucking awful. I was extremely disappointed by it. However, we kind of knew it was going to be disappointing, right?
Yeah, we did.
It was out there. We knew it was going to be disappointing.
Yeah.
We only saw it because I made you see it because I was familiar with the source material, and I knew that they were not going to be doing that justice.
I was just curious enough to just see what they put on the screen for that world,
right?
And I'm curious if they go out with the miniseries and venture out in that way, how they go about it, because I am intrigued. It has a lot of promise. And it just was
right. So
really bad.
Instead, what I am putting up there is Assassin's Creed, man. Assassin's Creed is up there because I really thought that video games were going to be the new well for Hollywood to go to now that comic books are drying up, and they still are. I mean, we still have Tomb Raider coming out in 2018. There's still talks of
Jake Gyllenhaal is supposed to be doing something big, right?
And then there's also talks about the Uncharted film, still Mass Effect films, all that stuff that we talked about in our video games episode that we did. That stuff is still out there. Assassin's Creed does not dissuade them. If anything, Assassin's Creed should stand as a cautionary tale to them of not to fall into these traps. If you were a game fan, you found a few Easter eggs they threw in there for you to like, but ultimately, as far as the story goes, it was fucking terrible.
Did you like the trailer?
The acting? No, I mean, honestly, no. The trailer made me a little cautious. I mean, I was intrigued because of the subject matter.
Sure.
But I mean, what we wound up getting was, I don't. What does Fassbender do, man? He's such a brilliant fucking actor, and then he does these films like Snowman and Assassin's Creed, and it's just like, dude, he phones it in when he's there. He's not really acting. I mean,
I guess that's or just his paycheck.
Right, he's just reading lines, and that's the way I felt when I was doing this. He was just reading,
Oh, definitely with that movie. Yeah.
Cotillard was there. Jeremy Irons was extremely wasted. The story was fucking convoluted and awful. And the only thing that really is cool is the action scenes. But then what takes away from the action scenes are these quick cut action scenes where, it's cut so quickly. I think when I counted like 15, 16 cuts in like 1 30-second period. And it's like, it's not that clean type of action you get with John Wick. It's that very like muddy, dirty action where it kind of confuses the audience. You don't really know what's going on at all. So like the thing that could have been its saving grace is awesome action. It was robbed of it as well. So it winds up just being a really big disappointment. Because I would like to see video game movies succeed because I feel like a lot of stories in video games are worth being told.
And the technology is there.
Yeah. I think a lot of those stories are worth being told. And I think a lot of those stories exist. The only downside to telling a video game story is video game stories wind up being extremely personal, right? It's your personal experience with playing that game. So it's tough to take a personal experience and then portray it on screen to make everybody happy. However, this made nobody happy. No one's experiences with the games were this, and they could have been better. So that's why this makes my list.
Well, I have a controversial number 1, Justice League.
Really? That was we reviewed that pretty high.
No, I didn't.
It got a C.
C.
Got a C. It wasn't an F.
Yeah, but we're talking disappointment.
That's true. It was disappointing, very much so.
And like you said before, there's a difference.
And now
and I had
on Twitter, there's hashtag give us the Snyder Cut, and then there's petitions out there for Warner Brothers to do the Snyder Cut and stuff like that. Because we know just from the trailers alone that the blue background and stuff like that was going on in it was
red.
No, it's right. So the red background was all added in later on. If you go watch the original trailers, there's like a blue background, and they were clearly not in some sort of like dead Chernobyl-ish city. They were probably in somewhere like Gotham and stuff like that. Like they were in like a city that we cared about. So like, there's elements
I don't even
that
think
made
it's even
sense.
out there though.
Oh, it's not out there.
He walked away. Impossible.
He walked away. It's not out there.
No,
it's not there.
That's just ridiculous. Yeah, because it's fucking Justice League, Dave. I mean, this is like the DC's Avengers. How many people out there that are screenwriters have to be big fans of these characters and this property? And you would think that they would have a fucking brain to write a good script and a good story.
It's a case
of
together. It's a case of too many cooks in the kitchen, man.
But god damn, like this though, like what they produced on this fucking movie was childish at times and completely ridiculous, and just did a big disservice to many of the characters. And like you complained about it, which I didn't realize at the time when I left the theater, Wonder Woman completely fell off the face of the earth at the very end of the movie. And and that's a very valid point. Like she literally just went off the face of the earth, and then Superman essentially could have did everything. Those guys didn't even need to do a thing in that final act. They just needed to bring him back to life and just tell him what to do.
Hey,
okay.
But one of my favorite movies is Raiders of the Lost Ark, and that film would have gone exactly the same way if Indiana Jones wasn't involved. In fact, the only reason that they wind up getting the finding the Ark of the Covenant is because Indiana Jones goes into the Well of Souls and finds out where the Ark is really located, and then they go. So the only role that Indiana Jones played was leading the Nazis directly to the Well of Souls. And the fact that Indiana Jones knew to not look at the Ark when it was opened is from a deleted scene where someone interprets the amulet, and the Staff of Ra, the amulet, and says like, oh, if this Well of Souls is open, don't look at it because it'll steal your soul.
Yeah.
So that was actually cut out of the film. So so what I'm saying is Wonder Woman being inconsequential to the entire story of Justice League is just like Indiana Jones. She's the coolest character on screen. She's the one we've gotten the best film from, and her presence is completely inconsequential, but her presence there is still felt. But the problem is, like, it should have been her who took down Steppenwolf, who took down her entire family, her entire world, right, of Themyscira, while she
deserved a better fight.
Right,
than
while
she
Superman was tied up separating the mother boxes because only his strength could do that. Right. It would have made so much more sense. So much more sense.
Yeah, but even for me, so much. I'm thinking even also with the future of these properties, like.
Batman's Death Wish made no sense. It was almost like they're apologizing for him killing people in BVS.
and of course was pointless.
Here's the problem. You wind up trying to apologize for one film and another film. You wind up not even servicing the film you're making. You should have just made the film you were making. And even if you had to not ignore events in the other one, but not try to explain events in the other one.
But also really quick, they're also needing to hype up future movies such as The Flash, Wonder Woman 2, and most importantly, next year's Aquaman.
We never reported on it in news, but there was a big shakeup in Warner Brothers after this.
That is very true.
They have not said the new order of films, but there will be a reordering. Ben Affleck was reportedly not going to do the Batman. Now he might be doing the Batman. Now he might be doing Flashpoint. He might not be. There's all this stuff out there, and the reason is me and Jay just stopped reporting on Warner Brothers because it was such a clusterfuck that us reporting on it every week, we wind up retracting our statements the next week, and it's just stupid for us to continue doing that.
Yeah, they're ridiculous over there right now. But Aquaman, their big underwater scene underwhelmed me. I don't know if that's because
a lot of
who
that was
directed
cut.
that.
A lot of that was cut.
Cut up.
Heavy editing.
I was not impressed, and I thought that they were going to deliver some more impressive scenes or sequences to get us hyped up for. Now, granted, underwater stuff, the way the images looked, I was cool with. I'm curious what James Wan does. He's got a shot,
right?
I just don't know. Like, that's the thing. Like, I don't know if it's just the way that it was written or whoever directed it at that time.
And Willem Dafoe was completely cut out of the film, but he was actually supposed to be in the film.
Is that true?
Oh yeah, he was the one who was supposed to lead Aquaman to his armor and give it to him and give him the trident and everything like that. All that shit was cut out.
Yeah, so that was a disappointment, big time.
It was. All right, so let's get into my number one. We're at 30 minutes. I mean, I think we really got to like hammer it home and get into our best films of the year. Luckily, we wanted to talk about what we loved about it so much because, I mean, fuck, we loved it. So my number one, my most disappointing film of the year, I think is on a lot of people's lists. It's Alien Covenant. What an absolute abortion of a franchise. It absolutely, thumbed its nose at the entire continuity of the franchise that came before it. It even thumbed its nose to continuity that Ridley Scott had in his film Alien. I mean, it was absolutely awful.
And he directed it, so it made it even more painful.
Right. But I mean, one of the things that I watched it this weekend, Jay, because I had to watch it again. I had to watch it again without my emotion, right? Because the first time I watched this, I was filled with emotion. I love the Alien franchise. Alien and Aliens are two of my favorite films ever. Prometheus.
So this was your second time watching it?
Yeah. So Prometheus was third time watching it because I watched it twice in the theaters. Prometheus was a film that I hated up front and then watched several times and then found things to like about it. So I had to see whether Alien Covenant was that film, right? I had to see whether I find things to love in it. I didn't. I honestly didn't. I found nothing. I wound up watching all the prologue material and stuff like that and just being like, yes, yeah, this stuff makes the film watchable. Unfortunately, it makes the film longer, but it makes the film watchable. And everything with David is just so cringeworthy to me. I'll do the fingering, but also this whole obsession with becoming a creator and stuff like that. It's cool and it's really fucking interesting. However, the way they portrayed it, it just wasn't riveting. It wasn't interesting at all to me. And the fact that you take Elizabeth Shaw, she was a badass character, dude. She was someone who was going to take on the engineers, the creators of humanity. She was going to take them on and make them pay for the crimes that they are committing against other living beings. And she winds up dying off screen and just being paid little homage to, other than David admitting the fact that he did love her, in this weird psychotic sort of way.
Very bizarre.
But one of the biggest egregious things that they could have done in this film is, I mean, aliens, xenomorphs exist in mystery. They exist in mythos and they exist in their surroundings. So, one of the scariest things is that they're biomechanical looking, so they can hide within your ship and you never really know they're there, and they kind of pop out and stuff like that. And then you show one in broad daylight.
And use it in marketing promoting, which was ridiculous.
You rob it of all of those creature effects and everything that makes it cool. Everything that makes it such a threat, you rob it of that by showing it in full light. And then the whole ending sequence being completely derivative of how Alien 1 ended, the original Alien ended. it just really bothered me. And then the fact, it's just so many things, like the way it just ended with, I mean, and the way it was so obvious that David was taking Walter's place. I mean, just so many things about this film angered me so much. And now that Disney has bought Fox, I don't have to suffer through another Ridley Scott alien film. And I don't think Disney's going to leave alien films on the table. I think they're going to come out with something eventually.
Eventually, not anytime soon. They need to get rid of this stink.
Yeah, but Ridley Scott's gone now, and it's like, but the sad part is, this is how it went out. This is how the original Alien franchise ended.
And Ridley had everything in his corner to make a great film.
He had just come off doing The Martian, and it was critically loved, and people loved it, and it won Academy Awards.
And he turned down Blade Runner.
And he turned down Blade Runner to do this Alien Covenant.
And he produces that. I mean,
Jay, what a perfect motherfucking segue. So let's get into the films that we loved the most. So we did put a poll on Twitter for all of these as well. So the films that were reviewed highest by us, out of 386 votes. It's a lot, dude. It's almost 400.
Yeah.
400 people almost voted on one of our polls.
Just a simple poll on Twitter.
Well, because it's easy. The barrier of entry is low.
It's very
click
easy.
and walk away. Yeah. All right. So anyway, the films that we put up, the films that me and Jay reviewed the highest are Logan, It, Blade Runner, and War for the Planet of the Apes. And here's how the rankings go. By an overwhelming percentage, Logan won by 53% of the votes. It got 19% of the votes. Blade Runner 2049 was in second place with 21% of the votes.
Good.
And War for Planet of the Apes was 7% of the votes, Jay.
Yeah,
7.
I think a lot of people maybe just forgot about that movie because it came out in late spring, right?
It's also not a huge franchise, right?
But it's beloved, and we loved it, and it was a great trilogy.
It's only beloved by film lovers. It's only beloved by film lovers.
I mean, it hasn't done gangbusters at the box office, but it's done well enough.
Right. So, Jay, that is where our Twitter poll stacks up. That's where people are with on this. However, me and you may or may not agree. These are our personal favorites, things that really just pleased us, got the juices flowing in our ball sacks, and the things we really liked. All right, so Jay, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is Wind River. Taylor Sheridan's written and directed film. I really had hopeful expectations, and I really got immersed.
We've
and
never
loved
even
the story.
talked about this on the show, did we?
No.
I'm so confused.
Well, I did personally because I saw the movie myself. Yeah.
No, so listeners are like, what the fuck?
No. I'm pretty certain. Obviously,
people don't remember what you said, Jay.
Well, this came out a while ago. This is an earlier summer small film that I definitely recommend checking out and catching. Gil Birmingham was heart-wrenching.
Wind River.
Jeremy Renner has never been any better. I mean, he was perfect in this movie.
Film. I did. This is the one where he's the
Elizabeth Olsen is an FBI agent.
I didn't see it. So, Jay, my number 5 is it's crazy because I just watched it this week, so it pushed The Big Sick out of my top 5. The Big Sick was in my top 5. I loved The Big Sick, so that's not to take away from it. I really enjoyed that film. But 3 Billboards.
Nice.
Is my number 5. I fucking loved that movie. It is by far the most emotionally impactful film I've probably seen all year, with the exception of my number 1. And it just, everyone brought their A game into acting, and the story is such a personal one. And I mean, just to spoil it a little bit of a spoiler. It involves rape, and rape to me is a subject matter that I find to be the most vile crime anyone can ever commit. So to see people's reaction in this small town, and to see how it kind of like a realistic portrayal of how
was there like different ranges from different kind of people, different kind of like angles on that viewpoint. Okay.
Yes. Okay. What did you expect from a girl who dressed like that and acted like that,
that's what
coming from a mother like you, etc.
Okay.
So there was a lot of blaming of the victim that went on in here, which is something that rape victims fear a lot, which is why they don't report it.
Yeah.
There was so many emotional, heavy scenes, but also scenes of levity.
Timely too, with the whole harassment issues going on.
Honestly, I talked about at the beginning of the show. Fuck it. It's a great film. Go fucking see it. Fuck that.
And I'm envious because I really wanted to see this, and I, for some reason, have not.
Jay, you're number 4.
Number 4 is Baby Driver. This is fucking just fun. I love this movie. It was so awesome and
also
cool
that it was shot like a music video.
Yes, the music in this movie is fantastic, and that is like sequenced and
right. The action scenes are sequenced to the music that's playing,
and even Ansel Elgort walking down the street getting coffee. Little stuff like that, and every single character came to play. John Hamm, fantastic, really good to see him in that role. Lily James, I have a huge crush on. She's beautiful. Kevin Spacey, Go Fuck Yourself, So yeah, I love this movie.
Yeah,
go Edgar Wright.
It's not going to win any Oscars now because he was in it. Honestly.
Oh well, but yeah, yeah.
It probably had chances for most original screenplay, or at least for
something,
possibly for editing, or possibly for original screenplay, stuff like that. But it won't get any of that now. It'll get none of that because he was in it, and he's tainted the entire production. So let me just do my number 4. Fuck that.
Yes,
Logan. What keeps this out from being higher? I understand it was on our poll. It was the highest one.
It's on my top 10.
It's in my top 5, obviously. But I mean, the reason it's number 4 is I really disliked a story element in it that really dragged it down for me. And it was the fact that it was a clone of Logan himself, a younger version of himself that he was fighting. I understand the allegory in that he, that old gray mare, she ain't what she used to be. But I really thought it would have been more powerful to have someone else in that role, maybe a different mutant with the similar abilities. It felt like a weak story device to have him go up against a younger version of himself. It bothered me a little bit. And also story elements like the fact that she had a perfectly edited video on her phone of like all the kids. And there's little things that bother me.
That was the sequence that bothered me the most.
Yeah. The mutant school or the mutant test facility that she worked at. Little things like that really, really bothered me, that I felt like as a writer, like as really, I think that stuff comes down to editing, other than, the Logan clone. That's a story element that bothers me a lot. So there's minor script issues and then editing issues with it that bothered me a bit. But that's the kind of stuff that keeps it out. And really, it all winds up being a moot point because now Disney owns X-Men. So, Jay, what's your number 3?
Lady Bird, Greta Gerwig.
I saw Disaster Artist this week instead of watching Lady Bird.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, I had a choice: Disaster Artist or Lady Bird.
Okay.
I went with Disaster Artist.
Check it out.
It's it's more of my speed, right? Lady Bird, you admitted during your review, is not my speed.
I never said that.
It's
I don't think so.
It's indie as fuck. I read the description. I read the plot synopsis.
It's indie, but you saw Edge of 17, correct? This is more
Loved
of
it.
A better indie version of Edge of 17, put it that way.
Which means I'll like Edge of 17 more.
Maybe. You're right.
All right. So Lady Bird, you talked about it last time me and you were together.
I think so.
2 weeks ago.
This definitely just hit a lot of notes with me as far as the time period being a year after 9/11, me being a similar age during that time with the lead actor played by Saoirse Ronan. Her mother, Laurie Metcalf, had an incredible rapport back and forth, very struggled relationship, mother-daughter, was really brought to life on screen. It was really cool. And Tracy Letts playing the father was a surprising delight. It was a dark little role, but he definitely did a good job in there. And then Lucas Hedges, actually, he kind of got on the big screen breakout in Manchester by the Sea. And in this movie, he was a surprise, and I thought he did a really good job in this movie.
Manchester by the Sea was last year, and it was fantastic. Also streaming on Amazon Prime, also produced by Amazon, and The Big Sick produced by Amazon as well, which is almost, yeah. Oh, it's kind of cool. There's a lot of these films coming out that are. We talked about Bright earlier, and it's like it kind of seems like Amazon's doing it better, right? Like Amazon's like, we'll produce.
They have the best studio or the best theatrical success so far.
We'll put these films theatrically out there and then put them on our streaming service exclusively. Maybe Netflix should look into doing that.
They're being stubborn so far. I mean, look at Bright. That's their highest.
However, I feel like if Bright had a theatrical release, it might not have gone well for them.
Maybe. And they actually put up the numbers. It was pretty successful.
The reason I bring it up is because I believe Lady Bird might also be one of those ones that winds up on Amazon Prime. streaming.
It could. I mean, it's an A24 property.
It's an A24, which is something that you touted at the beginning of the year was a studio to watch.
I love A24. It's
a studio to
definitely
watch.
a studio to watch.
You said the beginning of this year.
I'm a little worried that maybe Disney bought them. I'm not sure if that's affiliated with something. I don't know. I heard some kind of weird story point.
Disney needs to buy some things that can produce adult content so that they can distance themselves from the adult content, but also produce it and make the money from it.
Right.
So
as long as they don't boss around anybody there,
right,
they're okay, because that studio is amazing right now. It's like my new Focus Features.
my number 3 Focus Features juice. Sure, is your new Weinstein?
He was not a part of Focus.
Yeah, no.
You know that.
Let's stay.
That was Miramax and the Weinstein Co.
Right. Well, we got to stay away from Miramax and Weinstein now because they're all tainted as well.
Technically, you did Wind River. I know. Believe me, they're trying to
there you go,
brush
Jay.
away that tarnish from that. Yeah.
So my number 3, Jay, is our most recently reviewed film, other than Disaster Artist, Star Wars: The Last Jedi. It's my number 3. What keeps it at number 1? Go listen to our review, but really it's the humor in the first act, and it winds up being the entire Canto Bite thing that goes on at the casino, even though it comes back as such a big emotional part of the film towards the end. I found what was there to be the most prequel-heavy aspect of the film, and Finn's story wound up getting brushed under the carpet, and Finn is supposed to be one of our main 3. I'm supposed to really gravitate towards him, and I wound up finding myself distanced towards him in this film until the very last scene of him going up against the on Crate, going up against the doorbuster and stuff like that. But even then, that winds up being tainted by Rose's last ditch effort to save him and stuff like that, which I found to be a little ham-fisted as well. So I that doesn't get into all the things that I loved about it. All the things I loved about it was it's homage that it paid to original Star Wars trilogy, and also it's distancing itself from that. It's kind of my generation's goodbye to that original trilogy and my daughter's introduction into the new direction of Star Wars and stuff like that. The new generation's introduction to it. And
the
stuff
haters
like that.
will reform. They will.
I don't think so.
It's going to take a little bit of time.
I think it's one of the most. Honestly, I've been thinking about this a lot, and it will come out when we do our Podfix Presents a certain point of view, when we rank all the Star Wars films and stuff like that. But as of right now, at this very moment, that is months from now that show comes out and we record that show. But as of right now, it is my number 4 Star Wars films, and the only Star Wars films that are above it are the original trilogy.
I thought so. Okay.
So it is very important to Star Wars that this film exists, and it is. Yeah. I think it was pretty masterfully brought together. Just had some elements in it that are cringeworthy. And I review films, not professionally, but I review films, for fun and stuff like that. And if I have to look at this film and its sum whole, the things that I didn't like are far outweighed by the things that I did like. However, there were films that had more in it that I enjoyed than this one. So, Jay, you're number 2.
Blade Runner 2049.
We can just talk about it together. Blade Runner 2049 is my number 2 as
awesome.
Well. I fucking love this film, and it broke my heart that people didn't see it.
Really broke my heart. I mean, I was not expecting that at all, and neither did anybody else in Hollywood. Everybody thought that this was going to be a massive success. It had everything going for it. The stars,
right?
The reviews, the marketing, everything was fantastic. The only thing they keep on saying,
people that were hot right now were in it. It was directed by a guy who's hot right now. It was
Denis Villeneuve was the best person to direct this film at this moment. Not Ridley.
It 100% completed the story from the original one. Was a great continuation while adding new elements.
And having Hampton Fancher be a part of the screenplay was important. He was the original screenplay writer, and another guy touched it up, Michael Green.
Everything was right for this film. And Jay, when we and you started talking about before this, like when I went to the theater, it was a film that I was completely glued to the screen.
Yeah, this was my most anticipated film of this past year,
and it 100% delivered. It is a
did.
It is a feast for the eyes. It's a wonderful story. It is great characters with great character development throughout,
and some twists, a lot of twists.
The only part that really bothered me was the whole fight in the water and on the beach.
It was a little off,
unclear. It was a little unclear.
Yeah, it was.
Off,
it wasn't perfect.
Other than that, everything else that came,
but it had a poignant ending.
It did.
Which I really thought
100%.
was perfect for the movie, and definitely a Denis Villeneuve ending of sorts. So
Fired on all
I
cylinders.
really enjoyed that as well.
Here's the thing: 1982, Blade Runner flopped. It only became a cult hit later on when it was available on home video, and people started and there started becoming recuts and director's cuts and ultimate cuts coming out of it. That film fans really gravitated towards it and really started to love it. The people who love that are a little bit older now, like you and I. Your and I generation, we went and saw it. The older generation didn't really go and see it that much, and the younger generation was not bit by it, so it wound up being a commercial flop. We'll never get another Blade Runner. It's done. It's over. It's never going to happen. But, however, we got this one. It's a masterpiece, just like the original one is a fucking masterpiece, and it was a great companion.
I mean, we're disappointed with the numbers. We were nervous going into it a little bit, right? It's hard to get into that world, but at the same time, I'm content. If these are the only two movies for Blade Runner right now, so be it. They're both fantastic.
Yeah.
Right?
Jay, what's your number one?
Call Me by Your Name.
See?
So this movie you did not catch.
Nope.
I just saw recently, and this was
just saw it recently. You didn't sit on it at all. It's just your number one. Like,
I saw it a couple weeks ago.
no, I mean, I'm kind of envious of that. The fact that you could see a film so recently and be like, no, that's the best film this year. Like, I watched it. I enjoyed it that much. It's
Right.
the best film this year. I'm kind of envious of that. I had to sit on a film for a very long time before I put it highly on my list.
I was conflicted. My top 10 list, guys, I battled with for a good 3 days.
Which you're going to put up on Twitter, and I'll retweet on @SuperMoviePod.
Yeah, and it was one of the things that I had to make sure was not so much just like fanboying or just loving overall or rewatchability, but really just having like an emotional core and quality, and just me just enjoying the immersive experience that is put on screen in front of me, right? So this movie just had all that, and the director Luca Guadagnino did a fantastic job producing this. He actually shot this in his town in Italy. It follows a young man played beautifully by Timothée Chalamet, and Armie Hammer plays a guy visiting his town in Italy, and they fall in love, long story short. And it's just a summer of love and coming age and
sexual
many
discovery.
other... Yes, definitely. But also just about family and communication, and also just discovering yourself, and also just being there. Like the way it was shot, the sounds, the nuances, it took some surprising turns, but it was beautiful, and the dialogue in this movie was fucking amazing. And the way it was delivered was on point. I really just adore this film. It was just a master.
Sounds like a diving bell and
masterclass film.
Sounds like a diving bell and butterfly to me. I'll probably not
Way
gonna
better.
watch it and see it. So for me, my number one is the film that you and I rated the highest throughout the year, War for the Planet of the Apes. I absolutely love this film. That was a perfect companion
on my
to,
top 10.
honestly, I'll be honest, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was better than this, 100%.
I hear that a lot. Yeah.
But War for the Planet of the Apes was such a perfect companion to that. It wrapped up all the storylines from that, added new elements, and hit me with so many emotional moments of Caesar, man. Just seeing Caesar struggle with who he is, with his leadership and stuff like that, and see him struggle with this ideal of survival, but then also the most human element of himself, even though he's not a human, was revenge, and just seeing him strive towards that and then balk it at the same time, walk away from it, and still wind up getting caught up in it. It was the most human elements in this film came from apes, and
wasn't it a nice surprise too? Because the title says War for the Planet of the Apes, and you didn't get much war, but you got
that's people's big complaint about it.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring it up.
I didn't see war in this, and I was like, well, isn't the war in Caesar's own heart? Like, isn't that the war for the Planet of the Apes?
Exactly. And also,
is his
delivered
fight for
emotionally,
survival?
like you just said. Like, this was an emotional gut punch in many different ways, and many different times.
I love the way it ended.
gorgeous.
It ended at a place where you're just like,
It was
yeah,
perfect. It was
the original 8 films can exist in this, but it also ended at a place where, Caesar's story is over, and I feel complete now. Like, I felt complete watching his whole story unfold. And fuck, dude, this film made me cry so much. Like, there was so many moments in it where I was just choked up at the amount of emotion that was going on screen. And the whole third act, which is the big explosion part of it, wasn't even its strongest parts. The strongest parts all came in the second act and everything. This film had so many ups and downs, and it just emotionally, it made me feel complete for this trilogy.
Yeah.
And for me, seeing Caesar, fulfill, I guess, what essentially became his destiny, and leading his people to the promised land. It has so many biblical allegories. It has so many human emotional moments in it. I can't speak highly of it enough. If you're a fan of the other two and you haven't seen it, I don't know what you're waiting for. And if you saw it and you weren't too impressed by it, I think maybe give it a watch again, because there's a lot of elements in this that are reminiscent of Vietnam War era, that are very reminiscent of modern war era, that are very reminiscent of the heart of what it means to be human, and to have love, and to struggle with your emotional self and your mental self, your right-mindedness, and it is just beautiful to watch. So that's my number one.
And we got to give a shout out to Andy Serkis and Matt Reeves for doing this and doing it in such a high quality, and Woody Harrelson delivering, and also Steve Zahn was a surprise great supporting character that just really supported the second act.
And it was also a bit of a comic
jolt of
relief.
energy and comic relief. Yeah,
it was great.
It was nice.
It was such a good film. It's my number one, not because it was the best film this year, just because it made me feel so many things. It made me feel complete in a series for once, where so many series are wind up being left on open-endedness. That this one I felt like I had seen the entire story now, and I felt like I'm good. Planet of the Apes never needs to come back. If it does, great. It won't tarnish this, but
hopefully not for a while.
Yeah, it's okay that it ended here. So that's our list, for better or worse. Those are our most disappointing films of the year. Those are our favorite films of the year. If you disagree with us, obviously you're going to reach out to us on Twitter. Let us know what your favorite films of the year were. We'll let you know whether they were on our top 10 list or not. Jay will release his top 10 films of the year on Twitter, and I'll retweet it at Super Movie Pod, and I will release the at Super Movie Pod top 10 list for me as well on there. You can disagree, you can do whatever. You can yell at us. You can tell Jay he's got a tiny dick. It's fine. We take it all in stride. I want to thank everybody for listening tonight. If you want to check out more Podfix shows, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be doing their end of the year reviews. The Countdown Pod last week had their top 10 worst films of the year, and this week that this comes out, they'll be doing their top 10 favorite films of the year. So make sure you check out the Countdown Pod. That is Paul and Wayne over there out of Perth, Australia. It's one of my favorite shows to listen to, and they also happen to be part of the network that I am on as well. If you're a fan of The Walking Dead, I just did a bonus mini-sode with Paul where me and him discuss all the problems and pitfalls of The Walking Dead throughout season 8. So be sure to check out the Countdown Pod over there. You can also check out all the other Podfix shows at www.podfixnetwork.com. Pretty soon, you will see all of our movie cocktail recipes up there for you to enjoy, as well as a little bit of write-ups about our thoughts on the film as we did our episodes. So you can check all that stuff out at www.podfixnetwork.com. Be sure to follow us on Twitter to be a part of the show. Respond to our polls. That's at Super Movie Pod on there. Jay, you got some Untapped shit to plug.
Yeah, check us out on Untapped, Super Movie Bros podcast. So we got plenty of great new holiday beers reviewed up there, and also just random things that we've been drinking during our little downtime. So check it out, give us a comment, review some beers, have fun.
So I want to thank everybody for listening. Have a great night, and cheers.
Cheers.